Like, it's so cool to see that, like, this is actually a thing, that you can make full-time income off of playing video games and creating content. It's an awesome world that we're moving into. Esports is weird, man, because esports is this bizarre world where, like, on one hand, when I see something like this video and everything that 100 Thieves has done, I'm so enormously proud of where the industry is going. And actually, like, it's the only time when I'm, like, a little bit envious that I'm not still in it, right? Because I like left esports voluntarily and could have, like, joined a bunch of other teams and like wanted to do stuff in the agency side because it was more interesting to me. But oh man, when I see stuff like this, I get, like, super pumped about the future of esports. This is the kind of content and the kind of caliber of thing that makes me think, like, whoa, this could actually be the thing that all the investors are talking about and stuff like that, right? Then it's like that Jurassic Park meme where it's like, welcome to Jurassic Park. And, like, this is all like dun 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 dun, and then you, like, go over and look at the other esports teams and what they're doing. It's like, and it's like a broken dinosaur that, like, falls over and shit. Like, the difference between what esports teams are doing and the caliber they're doing it at is so crazy. It's actually unreal. And if anybody is actually just killing it in this industry, it's 100 Thieves. You just have to look at them and look at everything they're doing as a prime example of, like, the direction the esports should be going. And I have so many reasons to support this compound because I know I was copying and pasting some of the comments in chat while we were watching the video. And I know what a lot of the criticism of this is going to be is, like, is it a proper return on investment for the sponsors? Is it a proper return on investment for the team? Is this actually a good idea? Like, how is this possibly going to make any money? Is 100 Thieves profitable? And we're going to address, like, all that, I think. Like, this is all the stuff that we're going to talk about. So there's a couple of ways to do this, right? As an esports team. Oh my God, I almost typed the esports again. I got to stop that habit. You can just rent an office, and this is what a lot of esports teams do. You could buy a compound, right? Or you could do it 100 Thieves style, which is get a compound sponsored, basically. So let's take a list of all of the things that I saw in that video that I caught that are sponsored. The compound itself, Cash App, right? Compound itself, Red Bull, all over the place, right? League of Legends team, Rocket Mortgage, right? Chairs, equipment, Secret Lab, and NZXT. Fortnite, was it? Totinos. Okay, so they're probably paying next to nothing for this compound, and yet look at all the value adds that you get from this, right? There's a retail space, there's content creation studios for streamers and YouTubers, there's 4 studios for streaming, there's editing, right? And more importantly, though, and there's something that I want to talk about that I think, like, this is going to be a thing that I thought about in the video. I think a lot of people will miss. The value of having a professional, clean space like this. Let's talk about brand value. This is a place where celebrities like Drake are going to come hang out. This is a place where basketball stars and so, like, the celebrities that are sort of kind of attached to esports in, like, roundabout ways are going to come hang out because there's a certain kind of feeling about esports right now in the ecosystem that's like a hype, right? It's like people that are kind of, like, excited about what this is, and everyone's kind of talking about it. And if you have, like, a place to go for that to happen, this is like a place for, like, people to hang out and talk about, like, esports. And there's so much brand value in that. And 100 Thieves kills it in this way because the way they run parties, they ran a Totino's party at, what was the event I was just at? I don't know if it was E3 or TwitchCon. Was it TwitchCon? I think it was TwitchCon that they ran a Totino's party there. And, like, you could see that everything that 100 Thieves is doing is either sponsored, supported, or, like, very carefully crafted to add value in some way. The number one thing that 100 Thieves is killing it on is retail. and apparel. They are doing this better than any other esports team ever. And they're taking the same idea of like the Supreme style drops, where you have these drops that happen and you sell all of your apparel in like 2 minutes, and then you do a whole nother drop system, and they make their gear exclusive. They make their brand exclusive. Everything they're doing, I've talked about this before in other videos on Instagram, where they have a separate page just for their gaming that is incredibly successful right now, almost at 6K followers. Oh my God, that's how 100 Thieves is doing it. They've literally signed a contract with Stan. It all makes sense now. Okay, then they have a whole other separate thing for just their apparel, which is 165K followers, and they have full-time designers on this. Like, the way that they're thinking about producing things is so smart. So what we're seeing in esports is a very big chasm, where on one side you have people like 100 Thieves, Team Liquid, to some extent FaZe Clan, though I don't like to admit it, that are doing things right. They're getting sponsors who are paying for a lot of their initiatives. They bring value back to those sponsors in the form of good content and exposure, and simultaneously they monetize by selling brand merchandise and by doing better work along those lines, and also incentivize, they utilize their content creators. Look at everything the 100 Thieves guys did in these videos, right? They utilized basically every single one of their content creators in some way, and they incorporated them into the video in an intelligent and funny way, and made it look like this is sort of an inclusive home for all of these people to be at. So the reality is that the vast majority of these content creators are probably not going to be there all the time. They're going to be in and out, but 100 Thieves presented this in a way to a video that got 1 million views that was really professional and made it look like they're all part of this sort of inclusive community. It was super well done. So what I see from 100 Thieves is they're literally, there's a marketing concept by Jay Abram, which is called getting everything you can out of all you've got. Getting everything you can out of all you've got. And that's what I really see is happening here. And what that means is utilizing every asset and resource that you have in order to do something that basically maximizes its value. 100 Thieves is doing this better than anybody else, I think. You have all kinds of assets that you can utilize that can potentially provide you value as an esports team. You've got your players, you've got your talent, you've got your staff, you've got your content, you've got your practice sessions, you've got the games themselves, right? There's all kinds of stuff that you can do to make it super valuable for sponsors to be a part of something, and also to like utilize that and get the maximum value out of it. What I see from 100 Thieves is this sort of like Cash App compound thing is multi-layered offense in business. So what I mean is like, okay, you've got the compound. That's a cool place for celebrities to show up at. That's value number 1. That's a cool place to sell apparel out of. That's value number 2. That's a cool place to produce content out of. That's value number 3. You see what they're layering content. They're layering content over and over again, right? And that just amazes me in the way that they're doing this. So I guess it wouldn't really be a good talk unless we talked about some of the things that other esports teams are doing that is like not so good. So a lot of esports teams are now basically renting office space or even building compounds and stuff, and maybe they're getting like some sponsors for it. Like a lot of people are asking, like, is 100 Thieves profitable, right? So the real answer is I don't know. The answer, but the most likely answer is probably not, because if 100 Thieves is raising 30 million or whatever it was in Series B, there's probably no way they're going to get that money back, right? But they have the highest potential of any esports team right now, I think, to pay back that money to their investors. And there's a lot of ways that you can pay back that money and value. It's not just going to be in terms of like raw ROI, though I do think that 100 Thieves will make that money back just in terms of raw return on investment. Like, and it's one of the few esports teams. So like, it's like, compare this to a team. God, they're making so many good decisions. Compare this to a team that's like one of those new groups that was like basically a bunch of sports guys. They bought like a $20 to $30 million slot in the CDL. They built like a compound. They hired like 5 players who nobody knows the brands of. They paid them all $1 million a year. So like, that's why I'm saying the, what's the word? Is a dichotomy? The difference between esports teams right now is like, it's night and day. It's so left and right, because like over here, you've got a lot of these really intelligent decisions that are being made by like the people at 100 Thieves. And over on the right, you've got like these decisions to go into like investments like Activision. I don't even want to call it an investment. It's like buying a car an investment, right? It's like it's going into literal liabilities is what it is. There's such a massive gap between these teams right now, where there's so many people that are spending literally millions and millions of dollars on buying like slots, not focusing on brand. I don't want to like call anybody out because disparity is a good word. Thank you, chat. Because it's getting to the point where like a lot of people are going to watch this, and I don't want to be the guy that's like, this esports team and this esports team are, not doing it. But I think it should be very obvious. And by the way, it's most esports teams that are doing it wrong. Most esports teams. It's way, way harder to find examples of what is doing it right, because even companies like FaZe are doing it right in terms of content, but massively, allegedly unethical, right? Like allegedly hiring minors, allegedly in 8 lawsuits, allegedly right? So like there's so many examples of what not to do, but like 100 Thieves is just literally killing it on every single level. And like this is a company that's had like no ethical concerns come up about it really, while simultaneously just doing good, solid business in the space. And is leveraging that through a product, which is content creation. Who else is doing it right? Team Liquid, right? So Team Liquid hired 1UP Studios and then incorporated them into Team Liquid. That's under Damien, one of the best content creators in esports. They're killing it. They have a great apparel drops. They have a really good ideas of like how to expand their business. They're prominent in both YouTube and Instagram and other platforms. They're prominent internationally, both in Europe, Asia, and in the United States. So Team Liquid's another example of doing it really well. As much as I hate to say it, FaZe is doing a lot of good stuff well. But there are very few teams that are really doing well. Very few. And it's because I think a couple of reasons, and it's probably not the scope of this talk to like get into why, but a big reason is because a lot of esports teams, they just get it in their head that the only important thing is to win games. That if you win games and you're number one, like that's it. But that's not it, right? Building a brand, and I think my personal like biggest failure in esports, just like for me, and was during the time that I was like at CLG and I was at Dignitas, I didn't appropriately understand how important building a brand is and exactly how to do that. Because you can win a lot of games, and that's going to do some work for you. But if you don't have a brand and you don't start with good content creation, you're not going to be able to succeed as a business, because that leverages everything else that you do. And 100 Thieves understood that from the very get-go and still utilizes it. That all of their creators are people that can stand alone as brands. Or, I mean, if they do have players that are just playing, they feature creators and they don't feature those people as well. Another team that was very good at this before its acquisition was Optic. It's almost exclusively because of Hector. I talk about Hector a lot, and I shout that guy out constantly. Literally one of the best content creators ever to exist in our space. But same principle, right? Start with content first, start with creators first, start with personality first, and build off of that. And you can create teams that win games. That's important to do in esports, but you don't have to like feature those people in the same way if they don't want to do content creation, because some esports people, they just want to practice. They just want to like get after it and they want to practice 24/7. They barely ever want to create content. Fine. But understand that like the engine of your business is your content creation. The engine of your business is your ability to create good, compelling content like this that then leverages you. And this like Cash App Compound is built on the back of that system. It's not built on the back of winning games, right? All this stuff is possible. All these sponsors are possible because of the exposure those sponsors are getting in exchange for these deals. This video alone, going out to 1.1 million views, probably made all these guys ecstatic. And this is just the beginning of all the content they're going to create. Everything here, all these guys just got a huge value add from this video alone, from whatever contracts that they did. And that's not even considering the amount of value that they're going to get just going forward. I know so many sponsors in the space that would just be ecstatic. They'd be so pumped to get some kind of like shout out like this at this level. And this is just the beginning. So a lot of people think we start competitive in esports. I think we start creative. And if you look at traditional sports, which is often a good mirror to what esports will become later, because it's a little bit further ahead, a lot further ahead, right? 50 years ahead. What are the compelling things in sports? It's stories. Stories are what move us in sports. We want to hear about the stories of the players. We want to hear about the rivalries. We want to hear about their lives. We want to hear about their practice sessions, their mindset. We want interviews with the players. We want that, right? The competition to some extent just sort of peters out because you can only do TSM versus CLG so many times. Right, Kitchen is Chipotle. Yeah, add that too. You can only do these rivalries so many times between the teams. It's the players that fuel it and keep the stories interesting. And I think that's what esports teams that are going forward, the ones that understand that and create content to that end are going to be the ones that are successful. And that's what we're seeing now. So people are asking, right? The real question of this talk is it worth it to have these esports compounds? Because it's easy to think, right? Like, God, they must be spending millions of dollars on these compounds, plus they're getting millions of dollars of investment. How are they ever going to pay this? Plus they're paying their players millions of dollars. How is this ever going to come back to them in any meaningful way? Well, the answer is it comes back to them through intelligent business. There are definitely going to be a lot of teams that spend money like this, and they totally spiral out, and they don't do anything successful. That's absolutely going to exist, right? Probably the majority of them. And that's why if you look at some of my previous talks and some of my videos and stuff, I've talked about the idea of an esports bubble. If an esports bubble happens, it's going to be because of the 8 or 9 out of 10 teams that fail to do stuff like this, burn their investors' money, and then reduce confidence in the space. But for every one of, again, we've talked about venture capital a lot on this channel, right? You don't need 10 out of 10 hits to be successful in venture capital. Right now, esports is kind of playing out exactly like the VC market is. You've got 8. Typically, when you've got a situation like this, right? Let's say you've got 10 companies. You're going to have one that you hope is the unicorn. That's your Uber. That's your 100 Thieves, right? You're going to have 2 that are semi-successful if you're lucky. Maybe 1 to 2. That brings you to 7. You're going to have 3 to 4, which are just zombies, which they basically just float around and do nothing. And then you're going to have 1 to 2 that just completely fail, don't do anything with your investment. This is typical. And this is exactly what you're seeing from esports right now. Everybody can point out the zombies. I don't need to tell you who those guys are. There's some semi-successful teams that are kind of doing okay. There's 1 to 2 that are just a joke, right? And they're completely failing. And then there's a unicorn. And then 100 Thieves is your unicorn. And it's a combination of Nadeshot. It's a combination of the COO, John, that are just making consistent. It's a shout out to Julia, the previous director of marketing for CLG, person that I brought into esports that I'm really proud of now because she has now eclipsed even me in my ability, I think. And fantastic people and staff that have created this result. The success and the ascendancy of esports depends on the acumen of the business. And I will just say right now, keep in mind, I have no affiliation with 100 Thieves. I don't get paid by them. I call a spade a spade. I shout out teams I don't think are doing well. I shout out teams I think are doing fantastic. 100 Thieves as a company makes me proud to have been involved in esports and still be involved in esports the way that I am. That's what I have to say about it. I am just I'm so happy that companies like this exist, and I hope that other VCs take note of this and improve and get better because this is exactly the right thing that we should be doing. And I love the idea that esports compounds are a thing. Dude, this is awesome. How many of us could never have imagined a room like this when we were playing games and sorry to go full boomer here, but 1990 or 2000 or whatever, right? Couldn't imagine this stuff was happening. It's so cool to see that this is actually a thing that you can make full-time income off of playing video games and creating content. It's an awesome world that we're moving into. And it's facilitated and supported. This is the kind of video that gives confidence to investors. This is the kind of thing you show to a VC and they're like, man, I want to get in on that. That's cool to me. I love it. So that's what I think about esports compounds. I think that most of them are probably going to be executed badly. The few that are going to be executed well are going to make up for all the rest, I hope. Good talk. Good talk, dudes. Thank you. If this ends up being a YouTube video, like, subscribe, hit the button, do every action that you must do in order to follow this because we do tons.